Kids, if I may, you should always respect a parent over a close and seemingly more courageous friend of the family, no matter how moronic, obnoxious, craven, and cowardly the parent seems to be.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame death party!
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and well, as you can hear, I am alone today. My co-host, Alex, the producer, has actually gone off to his mom and his grandmother's to go celebrate a birthday, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Oma's birthday this past weekend, so happy birthday to Oma. Otherwise, it was just a visit, and I don't know. So yeah, Alex will be back next week here on the show, so until then, you have just me to entertain you over the course of the next hour or so. We'll kind of see how things go. And as often, we have reviews. Alex has a TV show. He's got a game. And I will be reviewing a RPG in this particular show. So as I most often do whenever I start off these podcasts, I almost always give you guys kind of an idea of what's been going on in my life over the course of the past week. And some pretty significant stuff has happened since I last came with you guys on the podcast. So I went to go see my surgeon. As most of you know, I am in a bariatric weight loss program to eventually get the weight loss surgery. Well, I met with my surgeon again, and surgery date is very close to becoming set. Basically, we're just waiting for some numbers to line up, but we are go in the next 2 months or so, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. So how that's working right now, I'm back on the liquid diet that I was on last year. And basically, I have to get below a certain weight threshold just so the surgeon feels kind of comfortable. But I met with my anesthesiologist today, the guy who basically knocks me out, and he's like, well, I don't have any concerns about your heart. I don't have any concerns about anything respiratory, but, lower is better. As you know, there's a risk of complications the heavier you are, but we feel pretty confident. I feel pretty good about doing this. So as far as I'm concerned, kid, you're good to go. So yeah, that's exciting and terrifying at the same time, because my wife went through this back in November. Alex did this a couple of years ago. My sister-in-law, Kara, went through with it a while ago, but she had some very bad complications, but she's come out of it okay. She's kept all the weight off. Blair is almost down like 100-something pounds. So it's insane how much you can lose on this. In fact, when I went to the doctors today, I've already dropped 23 pounds or so, give or take. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this stuff all falls off me over the course of the next couple of months. I mean, it's utter hell, but it is what it is. So that's been kind of exciting, getting all that prepped. Still working on my college course. So I'm just coming into my finals right now, which means I'm working on building a digital portfolio. And that means I might be putting some of my stuff online. So I might share that across my personal Facebook and whatnot, but it's going to be interesting to see how this all goes, as I'm going to use this new digital portfolio as sort of like a launch pad for all things Birdman. Like, hey, here's my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok and all that shit. But I'm also going to put my poems that I've written up I might put up excerpts from some of the previous stuff that I've done and, kind of learn to grow from that as time goes on. And I may start entering into the RPG space, just to sort of build up a portfolio of work and stuff that I can show other developers and whatnot in the future. So who knows? Maybe you'll see Birdman working on something fun like Alien or Dune or something like that. I mean, I think that would be the cool end goal, but we will see what happens with that. Other than that, I'm trying to think of what else really kind of happened this week. Yeah, I don't know. It's been kind of a weird week. I've been working on some other stuff in the background. I'm going to have a review with Alex of WWE 2K22. I'm playing it on PlayStation 5. He's playing it on Xbox Series X. And with WrestleMania coming up real soon, I figure that'll be some good kind of synergy to get that going to the greatest show on earth. And especially since we just heard Triple H retired. We had Razor Ramon passing away a little while ago. It's an interesting time to be a wrestling fan. And one of the people that I've hired in WWE 2K22, you have this My GM mode. And in honor of Scott Hall, I've been hiring him as my legend superstar. And I think he's feuding with Booker T right now. So yeah, that's a lot of fun because it's fun to get back into wrestling every now and again, but sometimes it gets silly and off script and But I'm having fun with the game, and that's something that I didn't think I would. So there's a little bit of a preview for what's coming up next week. And I think we're looking at the Godfather trilogy. That just came out on 4K Bluray recently too. So we'll probably be talking about that as time goes on. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm really, really, really into right now. Not really. It's an exciting time, to say the very least. I mean, obviously with surgery. Oh, I might be seeing my sister coming up in just a couple of weeks. I haven't seen Katie in a while, not since last fall. I think last fall or last summer. I can't remember which. So it's been a while, and with COVID winding down, and I use that term remarkably lightly, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see. So hopefully I'll see her because I dive back into school in May. I finish this course in about a month or just a little under that, about 25 days, give or take. So that should be fairly easy for me to wrap up the course. This next 2 weeks is going to be a lot of heavy lifting, getting that website designed in the back end, but I'm relatively confident that I'll be able to get it done fairly fast. So that'll be nice. So maybe the week Katie's up there, we might take a break that week. Maybe me and Alex, so we can hang out with her. We'll just have to kind of wait and see what's going on with that. Other than that, though, yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say to you. So in honor of the Oscars, and this movie I think it won 4 or 5 awards last night, we're going to take a listen to my review of a source book from Dune Adventures in the Imperium from our friends over at Modiphius. So we are going to get our Spacing Guild Navigator getting ready to take us through Fold Space, and we're going to go to the planet of Arrakis, but you may know it by its other name, Dune. We will be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Extreme temperatures and treacherous weather events make life outside the cities of Arrakis truly hostile. With sandstorms powerful enough to cut through metal, only the native tribes known as the Fremen have adapted well enough to survive. Preferring to inhabit the remotest regions of Arrakis, the Fremen share the deep desert with the giant sandworms, known to the Fremen as Shai Hulud. Long exposure to spice has given the tribe their characteristic blue eyes, the eyes of Ibad. Little else is known of the Fremen, except that they are dangerous and unreliable. Fremen attacks make spice harvesting extremely hazardous.
The spice must flow, my friends. It is I, your humble game master, Mike the Birdman, and we are taking a look at a product coming to us from Modiphius. A review copy was provided to us. We are talking about Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, Sand and Dust, the Arrakis sourcebook. So if you want to know more about the Shai-Hulud, the Muad'Dib, and how to design your own CHs, well, then I have got the most perfect book for you. So one of the things that I judge a source book by is how essential is it to make the game a more authentic experience for you as a game master, but also you as a player, and how well does it fit within the IP. Now, Modiphius has done an exceptional job for supporting a lot of its games, such as Star Trek Adventures, Conan, etc. And Dune is starting to get a lot of its books out now. So this first one, Sand and Dust, the Arrakis sourcebook, is, I'm going to say, one of the core books you would need. And why I'm saying that is because the Fremen are such an integral part of the Dune experience, and so much happens on Arrakis that I think a lot of games are going to end up going there anyway. So if your characters are going to run across, Fremen characters who are wandering the deserts, or maybe they're involved in the politics of Arrakeen. Now, the book does have kind of a setting where it's before Paul Atreides becomes, let's say, when he becomes the Muad'Dib, and whatnot. So it's set during that point before House Harkonnen falls. So it kind of defaults that. So there is still Carthage, which is the Harkonnen city, but it also talks about some of the environments around Dune, because yes, it's a giant desert, but it also kind of gives you peeks into how to work weather and even creatures into it. What I mean is, there's one little section that I remember this specifically. They say a smart traveler will pay attention to the animals. If they see a bird or if they see a lizard or something, they'll understand that shelter might be nearby, or maybe certain insects will have dew in their burrows early in the morning. But it also warns them that if you're not Fremen or really familiar with the ecosystems of Arrakis, eating the wrong lizard will kill you. Stuff like that. But it also brings in stuff mechanically, like there are a bunch of character types in the back. There's an adventure, but they also bring in like Fremen talents, or assets rather, but they also talk about some of the technology, such as the Fremen still suit, which you can survive as long as you have food for about 2 months or so. They talk about the Chris knife. And one thing I didn't know about this, there are two parts about this that really want me to get into these books hardcore, is there's a technology that the Fremen have, and it comes from extracting your body's water once you've died. And they explain in the book that only people that are considered exiled, or if you've done something terribly wrong and you're tainted, will they not reclaim the water from your body to give to the community. And they also talk about something called the water of life, which happens when you drown a young sandworm and you drink this mucus bile that it spills up as it dies. And you either gain a really cool power before you die, or it's like a Bene Gesserit thing, and it's intense. But it also gives some of the history of the planet Arrakis, which will be known as Rakis at some point in the distant future after the assassination of God Emperor Leto II, stuff like that. There's actually a point where the Bene Gesserit glass the planet like in Halo, and almost everything dies, and only the old sandworms are still alive to reclaim the planet into a desert. I found out that spice production eventually gets moved off-world in the far future. Like, this is amazingly cool world building. In fact, this book makes me excited to learn more about the Dune universe as a whole. And even if you're not playing the game as, a player or a game master, these books are just interesting damn reads if you want to know more about the world of Frank Herbert's Dune. And I'm recording this the day after the Oscars. Dune just won a bunch of awards, so I'm really hoping more people check out some of the expanded media from the Dune IP, such as Dune Adventures in the Imperium, but also Gale Force 9's various board game offerings set in that world as well. So, can I recommend Dune Adventures in the Imperium Sand and Dust, the Arrakis source book? I can, because it gets a little bit more into how spice works, how spice harvesting works, but it really is the Fremen source book. Really gives you insights into different, like, kind of player concepts, how to fit these characters into your campaign, but also fleshing out Arrakis. If you're going to have campaigns that visit the planet, if you really want to make, you know, that marketplace encounter with the Fremen scout a little bit more interesting, or meet, say, a Fremen Naibib who will basically give you insight, or, you know, maybe you can recruit Fremen mercenaries to fight alongside you, and say you're working with the Atreides Empire. So many things you can do here. And plus, like I said, they also talk about Dune in alternate eras, which will give you ideas too, like when they talk about the time before the Spacing Guild and stuff like that. Was spice as important? No, because we still had thinking machines. So, random stuff you can do here. There's a lot of cool information, plus there is an adventure in the back too, and that is also worth checking out. So, I can recommend this as always. The spice must flow. Once again, a review copy was provided to us, courtesy of Modiphius.
My desert. My Arrakis. My Dune.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
News.
All right, well, welcome back. As always, the spice must flow. So I am Mike the Birdman, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, here to bring you the nerd news that happened around the big blue planet this past week in the entertainment world, video games, comic books, and who knows what else. Just stuff I find interesting. And speaking of things that I find interesting, and it's hard to not talk about this because literally it is on every Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, you know what I'm talking about. The slap heard round the world is what I'll call it from here on out. So this story comes courtesy of Polygon, but you've seen this across TMZ, CNN, whatever. Will Smith wins the Best Actor Oscar shortly after slapping Chris Rock. Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. After nearly 30 years of one of the most recognizable stars in Hollywood, Will Smith has finally won the Academy Award for Best Actor. The former Fresh Prince of Bel-Air won the prize during Sunday's 94th Academy Awards for his performance as Richard Williams, father to tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams in the biopic King Richard, which was also nominated for Best Picture, which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was okay, worth a watch. Don't know whether it's worth owning, but that's my commentary. But the win will forever be shaded by a shocking moment earlier in the night. After Best Documentary presenter Chris Rock cracked a joke at the expense of Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith took to the stage and slapped the comedian across the face. The telecast cut to silence after the altercation as Smith continued to curse out Rock. As an international broadcaster, As international broadcast of the ceremony confirmed, Smith told Rock to keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. Nothing about the moment felt staged, and no one involved with the ceremony immediately clarified what happened. Rock formerly hosted the Oscars in 2016, where he made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's boycott of the Oscars, essentially saying she wasn't invited anyway. Meanwhile, Pinkett Smith's shaved head is partly due to her ongoing struggle with alopecia, a condition that causes hair loss, which she has spoken about publicly in the past. According to Smith, Denzel Washington pulled him aside after the incident and told him, "At your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes for you." Smith attempted to acknowledge the situation during his acceptance speech for the award. Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family, he said, slowly succumbing to tears. "In this time in my life, in this moment, I'm overwhelmed by what God is calling on me to do and be in this world. I'm being called on my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people. I know to do what you gotta be able is to take abuse. You got to let people talk crazy about you. You got to have people disrespecting you. You got to smile and pretend that it's okay. Smith went on to formally address the incident. I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all the nominees. This is a beautiful moment. I'm not crying for winning an award. It's not about winning. It's about being able to shine a light on all people. He continued to thank Venus and Serena Williams and much of the cast and the crew of King Richard. King Richard marks the third time Smith's been nominated for the award, like previous two times. 2001's Ali and 2006 The Pursuit of Happiness is what the lead role in a biographical drama. In this year's Oscars, Smith beat out fellow nominees Andrew Garfield for Tick Tick Boom, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog, Javier Bardem for Being Ricardo's, and Denzel Washington in The Tragedy of Macbeth. Okay, so this is a strange situation because on one hand, violence doesn't solve anything. On the other hand, you're making fun of a disabled person. And obviously, as someone who is disabled, I take offense to that. But I've had other people say, well, Chris Rock's a comedian. You have to expect this. And yeah, the joke was in poor taste. No one is going to argue that point whatsoever. If they do, they're a fucking idiot. But then Kathy Griffin, of all people, I saw this pop out on Twitter. She's like, well, who's going to be the next one to upstage Will Smith? Or something along those lines. Because now this sets a precedent. And then I saw somebody else point this out, and I thought this was fascinating, that television stations or broadcasters, you have a dump button. Normally there's a 7-second delay or so. Stuff that's built into the broadcast that, you know, you'd want to cut away from. Like there's been incidents in the past where people have died on camera or something terrible is happening. I can think of a number of violent incidents in Los Angeles. You think back to the guy who shot himself, or the guys who set themselves on fire. Basically a lot of terrible stuff. And cameras or television stations have the ability to cut that feed immediately. So they let this go out. Now, they were able to bleep what Will Smith said, you know, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth, but this didn't happen in all international markets. So they let this go to air. And a lot of people are saying this was staged and this wasn't staged. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm pretty sure Will Smith was pissed. And I've had people saying Will Smith is now canceled. This is going to kill his career. And I don't know how that's going to go because he just won Best Actor for this. And it's arguable. I could say Will Smith's career hasn't been of the hottest in the last couple of years. I mean, Gemini Man not being a highlight, that's for sure. So I don't know. Like, I can tell you from personal experience, when someone has offended someone in my life like that, I have not been the bigger man, and I have reacted not by punching them, but by getting physical, like a shove or something like that, or hitting a wall. I'm guilty of that. So I get where Will Smith's coming from. But supposedly there's been a feud going on between Rock and Smith, the Smiths, I guess. And Jada isn't too nice to Will on her podcast. So it's complicated. It's messy. I guess long story short, if I had to break this down any simpler, don't make fun of the disabled. Violence is not the answer, but sometimes shit happens would be the best way I can really kind of move on from this. So, other than that, the award show was actually pretty good. That was entertaining. Also, special shout out to Lady Gaga for taking care of Liza Minnelli, aka Lucille 2 from Arrested Development, because I don't know her from Cabaret, and I don't know her from anywhere but Arrested Development, but it was really nice that Lady Gaga took care of her. She wasn't embarrassed. She protected her dignity. And then the other, I know somebody had won previously in the night for being the first deaf actor. I think it was Best Supporting or something like that, which was pretty neat. So a pretty good job. And there were people professionally signing some of the award speeches so the person could hear the other person, quote unquote. So good times, good stuff. Okay. So Let's talk about more fun news in the media. This story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. And Toei Animation hacked, delaying Dragon Ball anime movie. TV anime, including One Piece, have also been impacted. Originally slated for an April 22nd release in Japan, Dragon Ball Super Superhero has been delayed after an unauthorized third party hacked Toei Animation. According to Yahoo Japan, Toei became aware of the hacker on March 6th and shut down one part of its internal system. Doing so impacted the company's workflow and scheduling, leading to the inevitable decision to push back the Japanese release of the upcoming feature anime Dragon Ball Super Superhero. This has made working on production difficult, Toei Animation stated in an official release. Because of these hardships, the company said it has no choice but to delay the movie's release. To looking forward to the release, we are truly very sorry. Dragon Ball Superhero is the 21st Dragon Ball movie. Creator Akira Toriyama is writing the movie's story and also contributing to Superhero's character design. The new movie is set after Dragon Ball Super Broly, but takes place before the 28th Tenkaichi Budokai. Last year, we got a closer look at the upcoming movie's CG animation. This isn't the first Dragon Ball to feature computer animation, but the movie's trailer certainly shows the studio embracing the style. Dragon Ball Super is not the only anime impacted by the hack. Yahoo Japan also reports that the hack hit TV anime, including Dragon Quest, The Adventures of Dai, Delicious Party, Pure Cure, Digimon Ghost Game, and One Piece. Toei will air reruns and specials in the near term as production tries to get back to normal. Toei Animation will announce the movie's new release date at another time in the future and ask fans to understand the current predicament. And then Kotaku reached out for clarification. Don't be a hacker piece of shit, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't leak a movie like this. I mean, I don't know what these hackers are trying to do. I mean, maybe they're trying to get money, they're trying to find something cool out or whatever. I mean, it sucks because we were literally like weeks away from Dragon Ball Superhero, which is something I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the official dub whenever that comes out because, you know, our good friend here on TWIG, Kyle Hebert, should have a starring role in that as Gohan. And, you know, it's neat not to have a movie that focuses on Vegeta and Goku beating the fuck out of whatever they need to this week. So, yeah, this sucks. And to see, you know, workflow disrupted because you don't know what they got a hold of. They're not saying anything, and I don't hang in any weird places to find out such things. And I don't know, like, I'll be honest with you guys. Sometimes the anime community kind of weirds me out because you get people that, you know, are jerks. And, you know, I hang in enough Facebook groups and watch enough conversations on Reddit to know there is a really good section of the anime community. So, but there's also the dark side of that too. So was this unauthorized third hacker group? I'd like to know what their motivations were. I really would. I mean, you fucked it up for all of us, so you jerk, you suck, I don't like you, and hopefully we'll see Dragon Ball Superhero sooner as opposed to later. Okay, and I just accidentally closed one of my stories, so I'm going to bring that back up in just a moment. But, there we go. Okay, so this story comes courtesy of comicbook.com, and this is something where when it got announced, I was a little bit, I don't know. So let's talk about it. So from comicbook.com, Wednesday, Netflix's Addams Family reboot brings back Christina Ricci. Nearly 30 years, sorry, it's giving me it. There we go. Nearly 30 years after appearing as Wednesday Addams, Christina Ricci is returning to the beloved horror franchise. After long-standing rumors of Ricci's return in Wednesday, a new series in the Addams Family universe set on Netflix, Hollywood trades are now confirming the actor's return. It said Ricci is playing an all-new character in the series, a series regular nonetheless, and won't be playing an older version of the eponymous trickster. That role goes to Scream stardom Jenna Ortega, who will be joined by the likes of Catherine Zeta-Jones and Louise Guzman, playing Morticia and Gomez Addams, respectively. I don't know how I feel about that. We've never seen her as a teenage girl, Ortega previously explained to Entertainment Weekly. You know, it's funny and sweet and almost charming to hear this 8-year-old's obsession with murder, blood, and guts as she gets older. That nasty attitude or those biting remarks. It's almost kind of hard not to make it sound like every other teenage girl. So it's like, how do we establish this character and give her the sense give her the same fire without letting her become something she's not. Also, it's an 8-hour series, so for an emotionless character, there has to be some sort of an emotional arc. Wednesday has been billed as a coming-of-age comedy produced and directed by Tim Burton and written by Smallville creators Al Gough and Miles Miller. We then got the call that visionary director and lifelong Addams Family fan Tim Burton wanted to make his television directorial debut with the series. Netflix original series director Teddy Bessel said in a release when the series was first announced, Tim has a vision of telling empowering stories about social outsiders like Edward Scissorhands, Lydia Dietz, and Batman. Now he's bringing his unique vision to Wednesday and her spooky classmates at Nevermore Academy. Previous rumors suggested Netflix was eyeing Ricci for the role of Morticia, though she doesn't appear to be the case here. The initial report from Deadline says Ricci's character is replacing the role left by Thora Birch after the Hocus Pocus alum departed the production last year. Okay, so I have this problem when it comes to Tim Burton stuff, and this is definitely coming from a very weird and stupid place, so I'm not going to even deny that. I don't like a lot of Tim Burton stuff, and what I'm going to say is immediately going to contradict what I'm going to say next. I really like Batman and Batman Returns. I've liked Ed Wood. I have liked... what else? I like Edward Scissorhands. I like Beetlejuice. I like almost everything he's done pre-2000s. But when you get beyond the 2000s, and when you get into, how people used to get him involved with Nightmare Before Christmas, and that's his influence or whatever, there's something about the Tim Burton fan community has really soured me on him. And when I saw some of his other movies in the 2000s, I was not a big fan of his Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I thought that was unnecessary, but Deep Roy was great. And Johnny Depp, I still don't know how to feel out on that one, because it seems like I don't know enough to have an opinion, is what I'm going to say. And I probably should read up on that, but I hear there's fault on both sides. So anyway, but back to Burton. I hope this just isn't style over substance, because I think you could do something interesting with that, because in the article, they do say Wednesday Addams eventually starts to sound like every teenage girl. I have a niece named Natalie who is incredibly sarcastic, has this amazingly sharp razor wit for her age. She's turning 18 in like a month. And yet she can go from dark, morbid, murderous to this little ball of sunshine, and like just it flips like a switch. So being a teenage girl is very interesting, I think, and you could tell an interesting story here while it's still being true. Although Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia, okay, sure, not Angelica Houston, but okay. Louise Guzman as Gomez could potentially be really funny. I have liked almost every actor who has played Gomez. I loved the Canadian Addams Family show. I've loved the original. I love the movies with Raul Julia. It's one of those franchises I kind of wish I was more into and was more of an active fan in that community. But then again, how big is the Addams Family community? I mean, realistically. So I don't know. Maybe this will be good. I'm really hoping. I'm hoping against hope. Burton can do what he wants, but he doesn't overindulge. Tell a story. Don't give me an aesthetic. You are a visionary director. I get that. You have a creative art department. I get that. You have vision for what you want. I get that. But make me care. You had people connecting with your older characters and your older work. You are a good director. You are a good writer. Show that to me. So that's what I'm hoping comes out of the Wednesday series when that eventually premieres on Netflix in the Who the Hell Knows category. Speaking of other things that got an unexpected thing, this comes courtesy of GhostbustersNews.com and friendo Jason. Turns out I used to know this guy up in Owen Sound when I used to live up there. So, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed video game revealed, and you can watch the trailer. So, some of this information has come out. So, after months of rumors and speculation, IllFonic has finally confirmed the existence of a brand new Ghostbusters video game set to release in Q4 of this year. Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed is a brand new 4v1 video game that'll let you take control of a customizable would-be Ghostbuster or instead play as a ghost. And then you can see the retail release and trailer below. So I'm going to read the press release and then give you my thoughts. So, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, the 4v1 hunt or haunt supernaturally charged video game from the asymmetrical multiplayer experts at IllFonic, rolls out the Ecto 1 in Q4 2022 for PC, Epic Game Store, PS4 and 5, Xbox Series XS, and Xbox One. No Switch port. Put on a proton pack, grab a ghost trap, and monitor the trusty PKE meter as a Ghostbusters team of 4 brave souls pursuing ghastly ghosts terrorizing public locations. Work together to find the ghosts, blast them with streams from the particle thrower to tether slimy foe in place, and shut the trap at the perfect moment. Keep citizens calm and corral the ghost before the environment gets too haunted. Play as a ghost, scaring unsuspecting citizens at various locations. You ain't afraid of no Ghostbuster, thanks to the ability to fly and teleport between rifts. Possess objects lying around each room to sneak by roaming Ghostbusters and frighten passersby. If that doesn't work, sliming and summoning ghoulish minions will. Haunt each map to complete one of the multiple ghosts with different abilities. Prepare for each match in the iconic firehouse by customizing a Ghostbuster or ghost, upgrading equipment and abilities, getting some target practice in using the particle thrower, as well as different modification. Talk with Winston Zedmore, voiced by Ernie Hudson, and get missions before going out in the field. Meet some new and old friends like Dan Aykroyd's Ray Stantz, ready to hand down some busting wisdom at Ray's Occult Books. Who are you going to call when you want to bust some ghosts thanks to cross-platform multiplayer? Anyone on PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, and or Xbox X Series S or 1 can come together to cross the streams or spew slime. AI companions can fill games or enable solo ghost busting or a solo ghost to play offline. Ghostbusters is one of the most beloved IPs in the world, so we're pulling out all the stops to make something special and accessible to its diverse fan base, says Charles Brungali, CEO of IllFonic. If you're someone who loves the movies or asymmetrical multiplayer games, then this is made for you. Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed will launch on the Epic Game Store, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so IllFonic, this is a name you're going to recognize. This is the same guys who did Friday the 13th, the game, and they also did Predator Hunting Grounds. One is a very good game that was filled by hackers. One was a game that had a lot of potential, and I think the player base died. But supposedly, I may be wrong in that. I was talking with a friend of the show, Andrew, and he was telling me that you can find a match for Predator Hunting Grounds, but it does take some time to do so. So I'm not sure how representative of the player base that is, but it was a PlayStation Plus game late last year, and that game came out in April of 2020. I know I played it during lockdown, and I reviewed it during that time, and deleted it pretty much just as quickly. So does IllFonic have what it takes? Yes. And I say that as someone who played a lot of Friday the 13th. If they love the source material, they will do it justice. And Friday the 13th was a better game than Predator, and it had infinitely more support than Predator. But they learned lessons in Predator they did not learn in Friday the 13th, mostly when it came to like enemy AI or stuff like that, because you could fight bots kind of, and you could do solo missions, but in Friday the 13th, it took a long time to patch that kind of stuff in. So if they've taken what they've learned over the last couple of games, I'm fairly optimistic this will be cool, but I'm very curious to know if there's going to be like a public beta for this at some point. I'm going to hope so. I'm hoping we see more trailers and stuff like that. I know some outlets have gotten an extended look. In fact, I'm almost certain I've missed some news from this, but I'm optimistic. Like, I want this game to be a success because I do like some of these games. Like, Shannon plays a game called Dead by Daylight. It's not a game I dig, but I like watching it because I reviewed the Switch version and didn't like it, but the Xbox version is infinitely better. But I loved Friday the 13th and had a lot of fun with that. And Evil Dead, the game, comes out in just a couple of, like less than 2 months, sometime in May. So I'm starting to get that vibe because I've met some really good people playing these games. In fact, it would not surprise me if GhostbustersNews.com gets like a Ghostbusters community going on this Spirits Unleashed game. And that would be really cool to meet fellow ghost heads from all around the world and, hopefully not have a, terrible experience. Now, I'm hoping for this game they give you options to play as all eras of Ghostbusters. If they give you cosmetics for stuff for the real Ghostbusters, I would love to see stuff representative of the IDW comics. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, give me the uniforms from Answer the Call. If I get to play as a lady Ghostbuster, I want their proton packs. I want their traps, but I also want everything that's ever been shown in the media. Because if Ilphonic is taking the same approach they did the Friday the 13th, we got the Savini Jason. So if they've got Dan Aykroyd involved, I hope he's designing some new gear, or I want the option for a slime blower, or give me the same proton pack from the Ghostbusters video game that has the boson dart, that has the dark matter gun, has these the slime tether. Give me all the attachments. Even if I have to unlock them, that's fine. But yeah, like in terms of uniforms, I want the Ghostbusters 1 flight suit, Ghostbusters 2, I want the Santa hat. I don't even care if that's like a pre-order bonus or an exclusive edition or whatever. I want Answer the Call, Real Ghostbusters, IDW, Ghostbusters International. Basically as many variations of the uniform as possible. And if you want to include some of the younger characters, that'd be cool. I mean, if they really want to do it, I think it'd be really neat if they show Podcast in the game. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Podcast does the narration of the menus for you and says, hey, guess what? The Ghostbusters busted up a new place today, and here are their damage totals, or stuff like that. And you could do it as like an in-universe fun little thing that happens, or maybe it's like a milestone when you reach level 10 or something. Podcast will give you like a rundown of your career or something. I think that might be kind of fun. But it depends, do they want to pay the actors, this, that, and the other thing? And what do they have the license to? Because Ilphonic, if they've got the Ghostbusters IP, I'm pretty sure they've got everything that's under Ghost Core. So again, we'll wait and see. I hope we get something really fun. And I don't want it to suck, because this is a game I'm going to go out of my way to try and play, and I would love to play with some of you out there in the community. I think it'd be fun. So final story this week, we're going to wrap things up on an RPG thing. So this comes courtesy of comicbook.com. Cyberpunk 2077 tabletop RPG products are on the way. Finally. The creator of the Cyberpunk franchise confirms there are plans to make tabletop gaming products based on the characters and world scene in Cyberpunk 2077. Speaking in an interview with Dicebreaker earlier this week, Cyberpunk creator Mike Pondsmith confirmed there are plans to make sourcebooks based on Cyberpunk 2077. There will be, Pondsmith told Dicebreaker when asked whether there would be any Cyberpunk 2077 sourcebooks. I can't say much more than that. I'm sworn to secrecy by a bunch of very tall, quiet Polish men. Pondsmith originally punched Cyberpunk back in 1988 and has since updated the game 3 times, updating the world And jumping forward the timeline via new editions, Pondsmith's R. Talsorian Games currently publishes Cyberpunk Red, which is set approximately 22 years prior to Cyberpunk 2077, but uses the same continuity. In the interview, Pondsmith notes that his company is in charge of maintaining the Cyberpunk timeline up until the in-universe year of 2060, while CD Projekt Red's in charge of events afterwards. However, Pondsmith did serve as a consultant for Cyberpunk 2077 and collaborates with CD Projekt Red on making future DLC for the popular video game. While our Talsorian Games continues to publish Cyberpunk Red material, the company focuses on filling the gap between that game and Cyberpunk 2077. It's not like we can just put out Cyberpunk Red and then say, now we're going to do 2077, Pondsmith told Dicebreaker. There's a lot of stuff that needed to go in between to make a 2077 book make sense. Cyberpunk 2077 was considered one of 2020's most anticipated games, but had a disastrous release due to its incredibly buggy console versions. The game was delisted from Sony's platform, or from Sony's PlayStation Store for 6 months due to the number of bugs. Over the last year, CD Projekt Red has released several patches to improve performance. Despite issues, Cyberpunk 2077 was a strong seller with an estimated sales of 25 million over a 12-month period. That is not insignificant by any stretch of the imagination. So, he's right. To just put out a 2077 source book would kind of do the game a disservice. And because that's a lot of time to fill in. And with the property I'm most familiar with this idea is Shadowrun, which would be, I guess, the closest Cyberpunk competitor. And each edition of the game, from first through whatever it is now, updates the game's official timeline. So Cyberpunk Red takes place in the 2040s. So, like, the major events have happened, Arasaka Tower has been destroyed, and Night City is changing. But to get to 2077, and with, all the strange, stupid, weird shit that happens in that game, you have to figure out how do we get from point A to point B. And that honestly involves doing a lot of world building and a lot of source books, which is stuff you can build tent poles around. Like, you could do a book for certain decades or certain events or factions which update the game's official storyline. I think jumping from Cyberpunk Red right to 2077, you're leaving out huge gaps of time, and it would be up to the individual game masters to fill in that gap however they see fit, which is fine and free. But if you want official in-canon tie-ins, then that's the time to do it. It's kind of like, I guess another way to think about this, and I saw this, I want to say on Trek Culture, they were talking about the idea of Star Trek's Lost Era. And Lost Era is from the beginning of the Khitomer Accords till the launch of the Enterprise D. Basically, the era of the maroon-red uniform that you saw at the Undiscovered Country. And you saw Picard in and Jack Crusher in would be a good way to kind of think. But basically, anytime in the Enterprise C era, right? So that's a lot of time where a lot of really huge events happen, but we've never seen them. So by skipping ahead from Cyberpunk Red, like, all right, cool, we're fighting in the future, neat, stuff's going on, and then you don't do anything with that, and you're like, oh, by the way, 30 years have passed, that's kind of a fuck you to the fans. So I'm totally fine with this moving forward, as long as we're getting quality source books at a regular pace. Like, I want, like, a book on mega corporations. I want a book on cybertech. I want to know more about the nomads. Fill out the rest of the world for me, right? Because I really love the world of Cyberpunk 2077, but get me from Cyberpunk Red, because I like the RPG too, and I'd love to run it here on TWIG at some point, because most of my team has played 2077, but if I want to get them to play in 2077, I'm going to need the resources on how half the stuff works. So, I don't know. I think it's good. I hope Mike Pondsmith is able to create exactly what he wants. I'm hoping when Cyberpunk 2077 drops significant DLC, I mean, we're getting patches right now. I hope we get something grand, and I really hope it'll be fun and exciting, but I also don't want them to rush it either. I want them to take their time and to do it right. Basically, prioritize quality over profit, and I'm happy with you. So we're going to take a break here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and we're gonna go visit a man with a mustache. So we will be back right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
It's finally here. I have been waiting for a HD remastered copy of Magnum P.I. to come out for what feels like 10, 15 years now since the Blu-ray format existed. It is one of my favorite shows growing up when I would see reruns of it. Now, Mill Creek has almost spared no expense in the remastering and quality of this release in itself. A lot of times Mill Creek's releases can be rehashed or just copied over from other previous releases from a company. Let's say like Sony releases something at one point and then they'll just do a repackage of it later on when they acquire the license. That doesn't appear to be the case here. It is a pretty good remaster. I know that this has been released at some point on Blu-ray, I think in the UK or Germany, somewhere overseas, but it didn't have all the same features that were on some of the Universal DVDs that were here. This ports over the Universal features, such as some flashback featurettes and some audio commentaries that were on the original DVDs as they were sporadically released, but also includes new interviews with the music composer Mike Post, who, if you know anything about late 70s to early to late 90s TV themes, he's sort of the king of the TV theme, where movies have your large, like Hans Zimmer type people. When it came to TV theme jingles that really hook you, Mike Post was the undisputed king of that, especially in the 80s when this was in its prime. So that was actually a good interview to look at. There's also extra interviews with series writers and directors and producers that were produced just for the set, which is awesome. There's also included two episodes of the Rockford Files, which Tom Selleck was in. One of them came out obviously before Magnum P.I., but it wasn't like it was an actual like backdoor pilot. He was just the guest of the week sort of thing, and that kind of led into him having his own show later on. Now, one thing that was funny is I forgot that season 1 does not have the iconic theme song, at least for the first several episodes. So when I popped it in, I was like, oh my god, wait, did they replace the music, the most iconic thing of the show? And then I realized, no, it's one of those things where the show is known for the theme song that was used later on in the show, as well as that's the theme song they would have used for all the syndicated packages later on. These are the original formats, uncut. They didn't do any like cropping, so it is 4:3, but in HD it looks pristine. They haven't done any digital noise reduction, so the film grain is intact, as well as all the details of every shot. Music wise, it has not been remastered anything into 5.1 surround, but it was originally only a stereo track. You probably would have only seen it in mono initially, but it is a DTS HD remastered stereo track. It sounds as good as you could expect. It looks better than expected. They've put the packaging into a better Blu-ray set than some of the ones they've released in the past, where they'll put them in either individual, like 5 individual Amaray cases within a box, or they'll stack them onto one big spindle or something. This is 3 of those multi-disc sets, and each one holds, I think was it almost 10? Yeah, it's 10 per box. And nothing was loose inside of there. There was no broken parts. It's actually decent cases inside of a slip box. Fits on the shelf pretty well. There's not an issue with a lot of times these sets, they'll cram too many episodes on a single disc. That's not the case here. You get every single episode of the show spread across 30 Blu-ray dual layer discs. Well worth it for the money. If you're looking for, if you're a nostalgic person and you're looking for sort of the best of the 80s had to offer when it came to the private investigator shows, you can't go wrong with Magnum P.I. And if you're somebody who maybe has seen the remake show and you like it, but you want to see what the original is all about, personally much prefer the original here than remakes. Generally, they're better than than modern remakes of shows. This being said, it is probably one of the best releases that Mill Creek has done in terms of Blu-ray TV shows in a few years for sure.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm still Mike the Birdman. I'm still not here with anybody but myself. Well, occasionally Wiley will look over at me. It is time, if you will, to talk about the strange and unusual and most often than not fucked up things that happened on this planet this week. And I'm going to start things off on kind of a sad note for all of us who stayed home many times during the 90s and the 2000s. Everybody had a routine, and normally it would start with this show, usually about 10 in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock, depending on your time zone. Story comes courtesy of comicbook.com. To give proper attribution, Maury canceled after 31 seasons. Maury Povich announces retirement. After 30 plus years on network television, Maury Povich is calling it quits. NBC Universal confirmed Sunday Povich's syndicated show Maury will be ending its 31st season, quits, airing new episodes later this year. In a dual statement from Povich, 83, and the studio, it was revealed the talk show host initially planned to retire 6 years ago before agreeing to come back. It's expected the series will stop airing new episodes this September. 6 years ago, when I was ready to retire, my NBC Universal family asked me to continue the show, Povich said Sunday, even though I told him I was ready for assisted living out of loyalty to NBC. And my more than 100 staff and crew members, Tracy Wilson, and I agreed to one more deal. I'm so proud of my relationship with NBC Universal and all those who worked on The Maury Show, but as I occasionally tell my guests, enough already. The series first launched in 1991 as The Maury Povich Show under the Paramount umbrella. After 6 years, Paramount and the show decided to part ways before it landed at NBC Universal, where it's been ever since. The show eventually received shortened Maury name and was renewed for 2 more seasons 2 years ago. Maury and I decided two years this season would be the farewell season for the show, and while his retirement is bittersweet, we are so happy for him to be able to spend more time on the golf course. NBC Universal Executive Vice President Tracy Wilson added in the statement, Maury is a television icon, a pop culture legend, and we couldn't be more proud to have been a part of his incredible career. Over 31 years, Maury has taped over 3,600 episodes from Stamford, Connecticut's Rich Forum, which was previously home to the Jerry Springer, Steve Wilkos, and Deal or No Deal. Povich started his career as a radio journalist in his native Washington, D.C. He worked in radio and television until landing a gig on Fox's A Current Affair, a role he held for 4 years before launching his own show. Povich turned 83 this year. I have watched a lot of Maury Povich, and let's be frank, it is television junk food of the highest quality. Like, how many times, when you think about this, especially, and I'm talking specifically to people in their early 30s to late 30s, and probably a little bit before, you are not the father. And, you'd see the person cover their face and run off stage, or somebody would come up and it would be an endless, I'm not your baby daddy, or I'm not the baby mama. And it would be people of all different expressions, all different races, all different sorts of different, basically problems would be on that show. I mean, in the episodes I saw, it never went totally bizarrely off the rails, but it was always like, how can this be real? Sort of thing. And it's like, this show has writers, clearly, but at the same time, where I'm from, there are some pretty fucking backwards people. So would it surprise me to know that people are questioning their parentage on a weekly basis? No. In fact, I did for quite some time myself. And it took me 40 years to figure that one out. Thanks, DNA. But I'll always remember Maury Povich for doing the lie detector test, and how Maury used to sit in his chair in a very particular way, and he'd kind of lean back. He'd put his one leg over the other with his knee kind of bobbing in the wind there. And he'd bring out the envelope and he'd start reading, and he would be like, Dave, we asked you this question, and the lie detector determined that was a lie. Oh! And then we asked our friend, I don't know, Bonnie, if such and such happened, and the lie detector determined that was a lie. Oh! And like, you got these over dramatic crowd things. Or my favorite thing about Maury Povich, and I'm pretty sure it was South Park took a shot at this. I'm almost positive. There was a girl, a troubled teenager, we'll say, and she used to be like, I smoke and I have sex all day with older men and blah, blah, blah. And it's like every ridiculous thing you can possibly think of. Like everything that might make a person question a certain morality, like being whatever it is. But basically the most extreme example you can think of. And then South Park had Cartman dress up as a young woman, and he was like, I do what I want. And I'm 99% sure that came from Maury Povich. So yeah, it's weird to think that part of the morning experience is gone, because Jerry Springer, I'm pretty sure that's done, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, hell, I'm pretty sure Judge Judy is one of the only ones left, but she's like in the afternoon. So I don't know what mornings look like outside of The View, because Ellen's over this year, I think, and you've got The Price is Right. Don't take that away from me. I mean, Drew Carey, live forever, but still. So yeah, it's certainly a time to be alive. Not exactly the thing I thought I'd be talking about. So once again, coming from comicbook.com, because these guys are great at sourcing out this stuff, but I got this press release in my email too. Where does one start with this story? Snoop Dogg is officially coming to Call of Duty Vanguard, Warzone, and mobile. Following a tease just this last week, Activision has officially announced the iconic rapper Snoop Dogg is coming to a number of different Call of Duty games. Releasing in April, Snoop Dogg will be coming to Call of Duty Vanguard, Warzone, Call of Duty Mobile. And while this might seem like a bizarre collaboration at first glance, this actually isn't the first time Snoop has crossed over with Call of Duty. Snoop Dogg will begin coming to these various Call of Duty titles on April 1st when he becomes available as a lucky draw in Call of Duty Mobile. This version of Snoop will see him wearing a 24K gold outfit. As for Vanguard and Warzone, Snoop Dogg won't be releasing until April 19th. At this time, he will be purchasable as part of the Snoop Dogg Operator Bungle. Maybe. The Vanguard and Warzone version of Snoop will see him resembling an old-timey gangster, which is more appropriate given the time period Vanguard is set. As for Snoop Dogg himself, he seems thrilled to be crossing over with Call of Duty once again. Previously, Snoop Dogg was involved in Call of Duty Ghosts when he appeared as an additional voiceover pack. The D-O-double-G is back in Call of Duty, and this time I'm in the freaking game, Snoop Dogg said in a statement, and that was posted to the Call of Duty website today. Excited to be working with the COD team to bring some fly features for all. Sorry. It's really hard not to slip into that, and I'm really, really sorry. That's a bad impression of Snoop Dogg. I'm excited to be working with the COD team to bring some fly features for you to all enjoy. It's dope. Y'all can play as me and get these sick items that have Snoop written all over them. Check it out. And then it asks whether you're planning on picking this up. Okay. I stopped playing Call of Duty Vanguard months ago. I wasn't having fun. I thought the game balance was off. I had fun with the game initially, but without playing with Alex and Liam playing zombies, and it seems like Treyarch has largely abandoned zombies as far as I understand. I check into some of the COD channels sometimes. I don't care. And that sucks, because sometimes some of those operator bundles can be great. Like, John McClane was great. Rambo was great. Snoop Dogg? Okay, yeah, sure. Why not? and to have him come out as an old-timey gangster, yeah, sure, why not? But it's so weird because this year's strangest Call of Duty crossover was with Attack on Titan. And I don't know what giant naked humans have to do with fighting in the Second World War, but I've only ever seen the first 2 or 3 episodes of that show, so what the hell do I know? I certainly don't have the aerial gear to jump around and cut these things up like turkey. So, I don't know, sure, okay, fine. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure, it's gonna be so weird getting mowed down by John McClane and being helped up by Snoop Dogg while Rambo shouts racial slurs at you. That would be the Call of Duty experience inside of a nutshell. And I'm not even talking about all the hackers in that game that can somehow aimbot you from across the map. So, strange, we'll say, to say the very least. But, hey, if Snoop Dogg's having fun, then why not? It's appropriate. It's coming out on April 1st. I'm sure somebody will have something to say about this, but hey, we've had the Master Chief in Fortnite and Ryan Reynolds, so why not, I guess. This next story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. Jamie Lee Curtis will officiate her daughter's wedding in World of Warcraft cosplay. The renowned Scream Queen will dress as Jaina Proudmoore for the occasion. Last night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Jamie Lee Curtis announced that not only will she officiate her youngest daughter's wedding in the actress's backyard, but she will do while wearing World of Warcraft cosplay. After painstakingly explaining the concept of cosplay to Kimmel's head, Curtis revealed she will cosplay as Jaina Proudmoore, one of the most powerful sorceresses in the World of Warcraft franchise. Why is Curtis going to be in costume, you may wonder? Her daughter, Ruby Guess, is having a cosplay-themed wedding. We're going to have a beautiful picnic in the backyard. I'm really excited, Curtis told Kimmel. Both my children will have been married in my backyard, which brings me to tears. This isn't the first time the Scream Queen has donned cosplay. In fact, she cosplayed during the World of Warcraft movie premiere, infiltrated BlizzCon 2015 disguised as a WoW undead, later attended EVO's 2015 Street Fighter's masked narcissist Vega. Despite her cosplay escapades as WoW characters, Curtis seemed to feign ignorance while discussing the game with Kimmel. Anybody in here know what that is? Curtis asked to the crowd, who laughed in response, "It's a game. I don't know. She's an admiral." It probably didn't help that Kimmel poked fun at the concept of cosplaying while Curtis attempted to explain it. She did, however, clap back at one of Kimmel's low-hanging fruit jokes by sneaking in a quick jab of her own, saying, "I forgot you're a comedian. We stan a queen." Curtis told Kimmel that her daughter Guest, who came out as trans in 2020, and her fiancé handpicked her cosplay for her. After searching for a Jaina Proudmoore costume on Etsy, Curtis told Kimmel she was able to purchase her ensemble from a Russian seamstress. Unfortunately, Curtis received some bad news about a possible delay in her order due to supply issues. Kimmel noted that the war between Russia and Ukraine likely played a part in her cosplay adventure going awry. Hopefully, Curtis's WoW outfit will arrive at her doorstep in time to officiate her daughter's wedding. That's cool. I really think so. I mean, looking at some of the pictures about this, actually Shannon, who used to play WoW pretty religiously for a while, told me about this story, and that's why I kind of put it in this week's news. She looks cool, honestly. I mean, I would have loved to have had cosplay at my wedding, for example. Hell, 2 things I wish I had at my wedding. 1, I will never let my wife live down until the day that we both die. And that is, I wanted a slushy machine there because it was only $200. And you're saying, well, Mike, it's $200. You may ask why. Because that day was the hottest day on record and the fucking air conditioning broke at the wedding hall. That slushy machine would have been a hit and I would have been a savior of humanity. Next thing, it would have been cool to have Ecto 1 because we did know some people who did have an Ecto fairly close to the wedding venue. That would have been cool. I'll let that go, but I want my damn slushy machine. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out who else is going to show up this way. Like, I hope there's pictures. Because certain cosplay you can sit in for hours. Other cosplays, like say you showed up as a Halo Spartan, first off, you're going to be losing water like you wouldn't believe from sweat unless you have good air conditioning and airflow and something like that. And some cosplays, like I remember when I used to attend the con circuit at Fair Chunk, there were people who would literally dress as medics, like people you'd see in like, you know, war situations. But they were cosplay medics. So they had like needle and thread and tape. They had everything a cosplayer could need if something broke. And you could flag down volunteers as cosplay medics who would help you and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. I mean, and I don't know whether Jamie Lee's going to be in this costume all day. Like, I'm hoping when they go to the reception after the actual ceremony, they allow her to switch out into something a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, I mean, that's cool. I mean, that's neat that, you know, her daughter's going to get married and it's going to be a cosplay wedding. I mean, one of my dream cosplays, and this would only ever happen if I could walk again and had access to like Rob Bottin or like Weta Workshop or Greg Nicotero, or if I had the entire production of the Halo television show. I would love to do a flood-infected ODST trooper. Because that would be boss. I want it to be gross. I want it to be dripping, but I want the weapons and armor to be authentic and covered in goo and shit. It would be awesome, and you know it, admit it. Okay, so moving on to my last story, and this one was sent to me by Alex last week. Comes courtesy of TMZ.com and is not about Will Smith. Korn tour bus hit by gunfire during Iowa stop. Hardly a warm welcome for Korn in Iowa, ironically, as someone used one of their buses for target practice, opening fire on the vehicle and landing at least one shot. The band is close to wrapping the U.S. tour, or the U.S. leg of its global tour, with a stop in Iowa Friday night. But just 24 hours before the show, the tour was hit while parked outside a hotel in Davenport, Iowa. A spokesperson for the Davenport Police Department tells us they got a call Friday morning for a vehicle that had been hit overnight. Cops say the bus, which was parked on the street, had been hit by a single bullet. Luckily, no one was injured. A source familiar with the situation tells us the bullet pierced the exterior wall of the bus. It was found inside the cabin. The saving grace is that no one was aboard at the time of the shooting. We should take note, Korn is touring with Chevelle, and they have multiple buses. It's unclear if the band, the crew, or both are using the bus that was shot. What did Korn do? Would be my first question. Obviously, you know, gunfire of any sort is not a good thing unless you happen to be shooting at people invading your country right now. Yeah, that's fucked up. And I really don't have any other words for that. I mean, I don't know whether Korn's done anything wrong in the media recently. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I listen to WMMR, and I like to think people like Jackie Bam Bam, Jackson, Brent Porsche, and all those guys would kind of mention if Korn had done something terrible or whatever, or I would have heard about it on like some music channel by now. Like, I follow a channel called the Punk Rock MBA by Finn McKenty, and I usually get a pretty good vibe on music, and I do get a lot of info from him, but I realize he's not the be-all and end-all of stuff. But I haven't heard Korn do anything wrong recently. But then again, if I'm wrong, Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net, I'm sure somebody will tell me. So maybe just a random act of violence, who knows? Maybe it was an accident. But who's to say on this one? Because I really don't know. So we're going to wrap things up here on the show, and we're going to take a listen to another one of Alex's review as he takes us to a video game of some type. So, Alex, why don't you take it away?
Our friends over at Xseed provided a review copy of Rune Factory 5 on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this is the first Rune Factory that is in a full 3D I guess open world style, best way to say it, like that look where they've gone from the top down style that the previous games had always been in to being a fully 3D realized world, and releasing it on the Switch, it's the first time that we've had this distinctive style in that franchise available in that format. Now we've had like Rune Factory 4 Special release recently. We've covered that. And this is a large departure from the way the series had previously been done. Now, the relationship aspects, the farming aspects, and the key elements that make Rune Factory the life sim part are, solid and intact in the way that they've always been, slightly refined and nuanced to make it a little bit better in this iteration than previous. That's sort of the bread and butter of the series. Now, the open world exploration and the combat aspect is, to be honest, a bit of a letdown, mostly because of the performance. We're dropping into the single digit, sometimes, frame rates on the Switch. And sometimes it's better. It's better in portable mode for sure. It seems to struggle when I dock it more than anything. And if you're looking for like a newer Rune Factory experience in portable mode, that's perfectly fine. And it's bright and colorful, especially on like the Switch OLED if you happen to have that screen. But one thing to note is maybe it's something that can be patched later on. There is a big red flag with this in its current form without any other patch applied to it, in that there's a significant amount of input delay. So combat feels weird. Like you go to attack something and you'll see like a full second between you saying to do something on screen and it actually happening in some cases. And it led me to make sure that, playing it on an easier difficulty, you kind of have to take your time with it. I did end up putting about 40 hours into the game, which is to say, obviously, that I still really enjoyed myself, but I feel that there should have been more attention to detail when it comes to patching some of the input latency issues, as well as some of the graphical. If the game is colorful and it has a really good art style when it comes to the character portraits and cutscenes and that, but the world feels almost too sparse and plain looking. It almost feels like a game that would have come out, I don't know, like 10 years ago, even though it's considered a modern new iteration of the series. So, I mean, some of that can be left up to your own interpretation when it comes to your opinion on, what you want out of a game like this. I just would have expected, because of how beautiful the previous games have been in their art style, that they would have been a little more. Now, is that leading into maybe the limitations of the aging Nintendo Switch at this point? Maybe. Had this, come out, maybe there'll be a special edition later on like the PlayStation or other consoles. If that's the case, we'd have to see how that works, because as it is, you can see limitations on the Switch where there's pop-in at a pretty short distance, actually. And, outside of the performance issues and just the overall control issues, taking it down a couple points, this would be a high recommend for me. But you have to kind of be a big fan of the series to want to get into this and ignore the performance issues that it's currently having to really enjoy it. I can recommend it in general of just it being a solid game as is, but take my opinion there with a grain of salt. You're gonna have to maybe wait and see if there's patches to address the performance issues, because it doesn't hold up on its own when it comes to combat. If you're going into this wanting and expecting a good combat RPG element to the life sim, if you're coming into this wanting more of the life sim stuff than the actual combat, then you're going to actually have a really, really good time, and you won't mind, dumping 30, 40 hours or more into the story to really get the full experience. Now, remember, combat is going to be hampered by that input delay and by the overall frame rate issues. If you are going to buy it, make sure that you're playing it in portable mode, because docked mode leaves a lot to be desired.
Captain, I believe I speak for everyone here, sir, when I say, to hell with our orders.
All right, guys, well, that's the kind of show it has been here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been your host over the last little bit, Mike the Birdman. Coming up on the site this week, we have recorded some Stargate SG-1 episodes. I'm literally just about to edit those after the show here. We are recording more tomorrow. Finally, Future Imperfect is getting back off the ground. We do have the episode planned. We're going to be talking about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 3. And how that always goes is we pick a season of TNG or whatever, and you cannot pick the popular episode. You can't pick Reunification. You can't pick Endgame from Voyager. You can't pick Best of Both Worlds, stuff like that. You have to talk about stuff that is off the beaten path, stuff that maybe people don't know. And season 3, there's a lot of really good episodes. So I know Alex picked yesterday's Enterprise, which is a classic episode, which kind of ties into season 2 of Picard in a thematic sense, I guess. And I picked the episode The Most Toys. And I think Aaron picked Sarek. We're just waiting on a day to get that all sort of settled out. Coming up on the site this week, I'm pretty sure there'll be another Turd or Treasure. In terms of reviews, I know me and Alex are both working on WWE 2K22, which should have a review out for this weekend. Also, The Godfather just celebrated its 50th anniversary, so we should have a review of that. I've seen the first 2. I don't think I've seen the third, so I'm going to remedy that this week. I also have a bunch of more RPG stuff to review. I've got some stuff from Dungeons and Dragons I got earlier. I got the new book that's going to be coming out. Something of the Netherdeep. I've got that. I've got that big box set that had the Book of the Plains. I'm going to be talking about that really, really, really soon. I also have some other books. I've got a board game expansion to review from Gale Force 9 for the Dune game, which gives you 2 more houses to play as. So that should be fun. So, yeah. Hopefully you've had a good time here on the show, just enjoying my lovely voice. And like I said, there might be a slight pause in April. If my sister comes up, maybe Alex will take the show that week. I may have some reviews then. I don't know. And yeah, might be going to my first OHL game in like 15 years this week. I might go see my old hometown, the Owensound Attack, fight the Guelph Storm. So that'll be on Friday. Hopefully I'll get a chance to do that. Should be a lot of fun. Going to the Sleeman Center here in Guelph. So anyway, guys, as always, we support the Ukraine people. If you have the time and the money or the means to do so, please reach out. There are any different number of charitable organizations that could use your help. If you want to do more, they are looking for some people to help families come over and, reaching a more intimate level of helping them there as well. So, check out your local community pages, like read your Facebooks, read what's going on in your community, patronize Ukrainian businesses, help them out. But also, if you see Russian-owned businesses too, don't be dicks to them. They don't want this either. Basically, long story short, don't be a jerk, is what I'm saying to do. Spread love, spread peace, do everything you possibly can to make things right in your community and around the world. That's basically the message that I want to leave you with this week. And if somebody talks shit about your wife, you could choose violence, or you could not. It's up to you. So anyway, folks, I've been Mike the Birdman saying, be excellent to each other, and I'll catch you guys again next week, right here on This Week in Geek.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.